And I'm going to give you my take in a minute. But first, Danny Ainge spoke to the media this week, kind of a pre-draft situation. And Bobby was in on it. And he was listening. A couple decent nuggets here, but one of them was on Kemba Walker, and that got people talking. It's again, we're talking about his health going forward into next year. Listen to Danny, and you tell me what you think here.
You've talked about Kemba Walker's knee not being right. How does this impact his recovery? How do you expect him to be? How ready do you expect him to be for a training camp that's suddenly going to begin December 1st? And then how would you handle him during the rest of the beginning of the season?
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that yet. But whatever it is, we'll be ready for that. And I have all the confidence in the world that Kemba will be back and healthy and fresh and ready. When that is, what he's doing right now is very important during this off season. But, we know how good of a player Kemba is and how good he can be. And, last year was a very unique situation too, and this upcoming year is very unique. But, we have to put Kemba's health at the front as a number one priority going in. I mean, in regarding Kemba, we have to make sure we got 3 more years with Kemba at least. And we're excited about those 3 years. He's a terrific player. But, yeah, there could be maintenance issues during the off season and early part of the season. But at some point, he'll be back and ready to go.
Okay.
Nick.
We brought Nick in. So here's what we're talking about here.
We got Nick in here?
Yeah, I let him in. He was knocking on the door.
Boss.
Let me in. So we let him in. No, the truth is we begged him. We all begged him to join. So here's what we're talking about, okay? Kemba Walker, Jimmy, okay? I get it. He was a breath of fresh air. Coming off of the Kyrie Irving stuff, absolutely. This was what they needed. Mark me down as one of those guys ready to sell all of his Kemba shares now. And I'm not saying for anything, but I would absolutely look for the right move if somebody were willing to take him to get out of the next 3 years of Kemba Walker. I don't think I want it. It's nothing against him. I like him. I like what he does. I like the guy. I like the leadership. I like his attitude. I like that he'll be deferential to Tatum and the kids, and he has no ego whatsoever. He really was exactly what we needed in a year after Kyrie Irving. But this stuff with the knee and his defensive and the defensive issues and the way he played in the playoffs, I think I'm all set. And I hate to rush to judgment so quickly, but one more maintenance year and a not so good run in the playoffs, and that's it. I think you've got one shot to sell high-ish on Kemba, and it's now or never. And so I would look for it. I think we lost Jimmy.
So you're talking about for this New Orleans deal, right?
I would consider, not straight up with all of the picks here, for Holiday. I would consider it.
Now, I think the only reason the Pelicans would be intrigued by this is because of the years on Kemba's contract, but they have to be certain he's going to be healthy. And if I look at the situation and the Celtics are sure he's going to be healthy and the Pelicans are sure he's going to be healthy, I want him in Boston. He already was damaged throughout the playoffs and played extraordinarily well, 20 points a game almost. Was shooting well in that Philadelphia series. Now, it kind of came to a halt as the postseason went on, but he was still central to what they did in the early portions of it, through about game 4 in that Toronto series.
He had 2 bad series.
Yeah.
He plays 2 bad series out of 3. I don't know how much you attribute that to the knee, but I'm not on board with 3 years of maintenance. I mean, this is not like it was the same thing with Kyrie. I didn't want anything to do with Kyrie's health either, let alone the attitude. But Nick, jump in here. Kemba, yay or nay?
When Danny talks that way,
you're right, Nick.
When Danny starts talking, he's dropping. There's something more wrong with that knee. Let's face it. He was unhealthy in the playoffs, and I agree with John. Like, I can't even say Kemba's name and Kyrie's name in the same sentence, even though I just did.
Right.
But I don't want to see those two, or I don't want to see a similar situation. And did we just go through 3 years and hundreds of millions of dollars of maintenance with Gordon? I'm all set.
Yeah. I would sell. I'd
Wow.
sell my shares now, and,
So
and
you-
everyone's going to get mad. There was a lot of anger on.
John,
Most of Celtics Twitter today was reacting like, don't get Kemba's name out of your mouth. Like, nobody mentioned Kemba Walker in this deal, and they were offended by the possibility. I'm listening. I'm listening here. I want to hear. I want to see what could get done.
John, I couldn't hear you right out of Ainge. Can you just real quick summarize what your take was there?
My take was I'm ready to to sell my shares of Kemba.
Really?
I'm legit concerned about the knee, and I don't think this team needs a Kemba style player right now. I don't think so.
What do you think they need? More of a passing, just like defensive point guard?
I mean, I would rather.
Like a Rondo?
No, but I mean, I like Holiday because of his defense as well. And so you don't have to worry about Kemba playing himself off the floor as happens sometimes, or Jimmy Butler just, all right, I'll take it, and switch mismatch situation. It's not as you wouldn't be as afraid there, but I am legitimately concerned about the health, and this being I mean, if it's maintenance and breaking down in year one, heading into another year or early season of maintenance, and let's make sure Kemba's right. By what do you got after year 4? I'm not interested. I don't want to be around for that.
John, the other thing with that too is I'm sorry, Jimmy, I just stepped on you, but I expected Kemba, injured or not, to be a calming force in the playoffs, and that did not happen. I mean, I think in the Raptors series, he had that check your heart, moment. But other than that, he was not a calming force. That's probably where my biggest upset with him was. I love the guy. I mean, he's all smiles. He's the anti-Kyrie. He's great. But injured, kind of fell apart in the playoffs.
But you
Go,
can't,
Jimmy.
I feel like that's a little unfair, because that was kind of a new situation it was a new situation for Kemba Walker too, just as much as, some of these young. Yeah, he's professional, but that doesn't mean he has experience in that situation. So again, he's a new guy on the team. Yeah, and he took a bit of a leadership role for sure throughout the course of the season. I think the team being away from each other for long stretches changed the dynamic of things during the return. I think playing in the bubble changes things. I'm not trying to make an excuse for them, because everyone dealt with the same things. But for you guys to just sit there and say, "Oh, Kemba Walker's damaged goods, get out while you still can," I haven't necessarily seen enough of that to call him damaged goods yet. I mean,
but
he missed some time. He played through whatever pain he was going through. And I'm also not going to say that his struggles were because of his knee. I mean, he was working his way.
That would be more concerning. If his struggles weren't because of his knee, that would
Why
worry
would that
me
be
more.
That wouldn't be. No, that would not worry you more. That's just a guy going through a rough stretch. I mean, what are they saying about Pascal Siakam? I mean, are they going to trade him? Are they going to throw him back to the D League for the way he played in the series? Or are they saying, okay, guy had a bad series?
We'll have to check that one.
Bobby, what are they saying? Yeah,
he was next level bad. Now let's talk about what struggles were for Kemba here. 20 points in 4 of the last 6 games. He had at least 15 in each game of the conference finals. So labored or not, he was still fighting through it. He might not have been his efficient self, but he was still contributing the kind of offense they needed here. I think if you're in championship
too, how many times in those post games though, Bobby, were we like, what this team doesn't need is Kemba dribbling the ball for 15 seconds, trying to find his rhythm. Like, we've got an alpha on this team, okay? And it's not Kemba. So Kemba, you're much better off with a catch and shoot sort of guy than you are with a guy who's got to dribble the air out of the ball in order to find his rhythm and find his way. Like, I like that. The strength of Kemba was, if other offense wasn't going well, it's nice to have another guy who could create. But he was struggling so hard to create his own shot late in the season and in the playoffs there. And I know it's the efficiency you mentioned. That's what worries me there, is he was laboring to get those shots off, good shots off. And even when he was getting them and getting to his spots, he wasn't hitting them as consistently. It was hard to watch, not to mention the defensive liability that he presents every single time he's on the floor. So we were theorizing, like, are they better when we were talking about in the playoffs, Jimmy, whether or not there's a world in which he's not on the court late in the game and you're using Marcus at the point because Kemba's just killing you. And I know the numbers will bear out. Yeah.
You say that in one sentence, and in the next second you say, "Why is Marcus Smart on the floor taking these shots?"
I want to trade everybody.
So which one is it?
I told you before this. I hate everything.
And which one is it?
We were beating up on every player. We were beating up on Jaylen Brown for not being aggressive.
Can we have a nuanced conversation? We don't hate Marcus Smart. We hate when Marcus Smart takes shots.
We hate when he misses shots.
Maybe
we hate when Marcus Smart takes.
No, there were times during the season.
Yeah, we do.
No, it was getting to a point during the season. He started to get.
We don't hate Marcus Smart.
No, we don't. But when Kemba Walker isn't on, or when he's not on the floor, guess who's taking more shots?
Yes.
I am selling my shares.
Fine, you sell it. But let me say one more thing. Let me say one more thing, Mr. Shareholder. Before you sell your shares, if you're Danny Ainge and if you're the Boston Celtics, you got to at some point look around the league and say, okay, what are players going to think of us? Are players going to want to play here? If players going to want to play here, are they going to want to sign here if we're trading Isaiah Thomas, if we're trading Kemba Walker, if Al Horford's leaving, if Kyrie Irving's leaving? Is this a place that players are going to want to? It's cold as hell as it is to begin with.
This goes back to your Tatum thing, John.
It's very warm. It's 65 degrees.
Jason Tatum going to want to resign here?
Just to peel the layers off that onion. The Celtics tried to mortgage their future, probably at the detriment of everything going on with the team, to sign that dirtbag, Kyrie. They tried everything possible to sign him, even though they knew it was a deleterious effect that he had on the franchise. But they tried. And then Al Horford was like, yeah, hey, I'm leaving too. That's a guy they brought in here. So the Celtics aren't doing guys dirty outside of Isaiah, which 30 out of 30 NBA franchises were doing that to Isaiah Thomas. Okay, it is what it is.
Thomas. You're gonna trade Gordon next. I mean, you're gonna trade.
But they haven't done that. They've been left at the altar.
No, I know, but I get that. But I'm just saying.
Al left them.
I have never had a free. I've never been so happy. I've never been so happy about a superstar leaving than Kyrie Irving.
So all right.
We're not going to get into Kyrie again.
Let's say
I'm
everybody.
just saying it because in the chat room they're saying we're mad he left. I'm happy he left.
Oh no, goodness gracious! I'm just.
Wow, if you think we're mad he left,
Nobody outside of Boston is looking at the Celtics like, oh my goodness, they weren't able to sign these guys. They tried and failed.
No, but my point is, would a player want to play here? It's just another reason why a player wouldn't want to think about coming here. I mean,
That's a good point, Jimmy. That's a good point, Jimmy. I also want you guys to consider what the kind of team that would be left over after this, plethora of moves that you all want to see. Jrue Holiday, Marcus Smart, Tatum, Brown, and Miles Turner.
Shooters.
Is that a championship team? I think that's a worse.
Nobody can hit a shot on that team.
I think that's a worse team than what they have right now. Holiday's better than Kemba. There's no doubt about that. But all of a sudden,
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Kemba's a bad defender. Holiday's the best defensive point guard in the league.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm not arguing the defensive.
You also remove if you also remove Hayward from that situation,
and that's
all
why
of a sudden you're down two.
That's why I'm willing to listen to this deal, because at the end of the day, let's not fool ourselves into believing that it's that big a package. Okay, 14, 26, and 30. You know what that's worth? Nothing. Okay. Not a ton.
True completely. That's not true completely.
I mean, so do they want that? That's my big question.
If one of those picks hits, John, on whoever they trade him to, you're not going to be sitting there saying,
I'm still waiting.
What a great trade. I can guarantee you that for 1 year of Jrue Holiday.
I'm done waiting on picks too.
And they have to find a way to sweeten those picks, because right now, you know why you're hearing this today? All you've heard all offseason is the Celtics have 3 picks to move up, and every single day they're shopping them. Well, guess what? None of these teams want them. All of a sudden, you need a Kemba Walker style player to sweeten that up a little bit, because 14, 26, and 30 to a team in the top 10 is useless. I mean, those picks aren't getting them anywhere.
That's what I find confusing in this thing is I don't understand the math that 14, 26, and 30 gets you to 6.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I don't think it gets you to 12. You know, like
Well, that was the original infrastructure of this deal that Kevin talked about, was moving those picks to get up to 6, which isn't happening. I mean, frankly, Atlanta could.
Is that you have to get to 6 to have a pick that's attractive enough, because New Orleans might be eyeing a particular player. I don't see how you get to 6 that way. I think if they're lucky, they get to 8, 9, or 10, and even that's a stretch.
The Celtics would be fortunate to be even involved in this conversation, because all they seriously have to offer here is salary, maybe the value of Kemba if another team likes him. But Atlanta has the pick, New Orleans has the player. What do the Celtics have here? I don't think it's going to happen. I don't
either. Mainly because it's a worth, and that's the reason I was willing to listen to this trade. Those picks to me are close to worthless if you're the Celtics. So you're basically looking to get out of 3 years of Kemba for 1 year of Jrue and see if you can re-sign him. And that would be the deal. All
I could think about is when the Grizzlies won that.
And then you flip Hayward. Then Hayward opts in, and you flip him in a different deal. And that would be the movement.
I'm keeping Hayward.
That Indiana thing is still in play.
All right, let's get to that.
Think that you'd still be looking at an Indiana deal.
Let's get to that Indiana deal, because I get the merits of trading Hayward. We've talked about this for 3 straight episodes now. Why you would trade
Jimmy's
Hayward?
Upside down.
Not from what I see. Is that
he's upside down?
That's the meds they gave you at the dentist today, Nick.
Upside down.
You are. You're
Jimmy's
we know you're upside
down.
Wait. Jimmy's rotating.
He's upside down.
No.
Sorry, guys.
I feel like I'm blood's rushing in my head listening to some of the things you guys are saying. Acting like Jrue Holiday is like God's greatest gift to basketball, and like Kemba Walker's trash. Like,
why
I don't think Kemba was trash.
I feel the same way about Miles Turner. Like,
you say
Miles Turner's trash.
Yeah, like I tweeted out earlier today. I'm like,
hold on, let Jimmy get mad.
All right.
I like it.
Go.
I mean, don't sit here and tell me that Jrue Holiday is light years better than Kemba Walker. I mean, Bobby's sitting here, hands down, best defensive guard in the NBA. This guy is, I understand he's an underrated player. I actually think he was like voted like underrated player in the NBA or something. I understand he's good on both ends of the floor. I know he's a much better defender than Kemba. But let's stop acting like this guy's like a perennial like 6, 7, 8-time All-Star. Like trade whatever you can get for him. And like Kemba Walker is like hobbling around on crutches for the rest of his career. Like it's just not that. Like we're so conditioned to just say, what have you done for me lately? I mean, I'm pretty sure Kemba Walker had some really, really good games in a Celtics uniform in the first half, or before the season was put on halt. Everything was fine and dandy on the Kemba Walker front with, coexisting with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Everything was great. I mean, no one was saying, let's get this guy out of town as soon as we can.
But I know, but Jimmy, my stance is different though. Both things can be true. Kemba Walker was a godsend. It's exactly what this team needed. I loved everything he did.
I'm not saying he was a godsend.
My shares now. I'm looking ahead. I'm projecting, and I'm guessing. It's guesswork. But I'm concerned. Long term, it's going to get. This was the best year that we were going to see, and it didn't quite go as we wanted. And Nick was about to jump in, so I cut you off. Sorry.
No, it was all right. I'm thinking back on it now. What I said about Danny Ainge. If Danny was thinking about moving Kemba, the knee is great. Everything's great. Kemba has, and he was just kind of down on it from what I've seen. So I don't know. I mean, there is some credence to, and listen, Isaiah Thomas, that whole situation, like that was Anthony Davis's dad. You could all thank for that, or else we wouldn't still be talking about it. Right. So like, complaining and AD doesn't want to go there because of Isaiah and da-da-da-da-da. Like,
what a fraud. He wanted to go one place.
He wanted to go. They had that plan the entire time. If you trade Kemba or you include him in a trade, nobody's saying anything. That's today's NBA. And it just is what it is. So I see what Jimmy's saying. I mean, I don't know what the upgrade is. I do think Jrue Holiday.
The upgrade's defensive.
It's defensive, and it's also not ball stopping. Right, because Kemba does tend to have the ball in his hands a lot. The big thing for me is, I know you guys did, Bobby, you throw out all these stats from the playoffs. I couldn't care less if he had 0 points a game, but in crunch time, when this team got rattled constantly and they weren't following the plays, or Brad Stevens just wasn't calling plays, you expect a veteran playoff experience or not to calm them down. And he was not able to do that. I mean, he was non-existent for the most part. He wasn't the Kemba he was during the season.
That comes down to the Brown and Tatum types to be able to step up to that moment because nobody else is going to be able to do that.
Tatum showed his immaturity in the playoffs.
So yeah, I mean, this team's championship potential is going to be based on their ability to get there. And this comes down to the fundamental question we have to ask about this offseason. Do you want to just add a little bit to the bottom of the team, improve that bench, stick with the team they have, or blow this up? Because the way we're talking, we want to blow this all up around Brown and Hayward.
Stop blowing it up. You're changing pieces on the fly. This is you're building around two players, and you're going to continue to revolve around the pieces around these players, fitting in not just for now, but for down the road. And ultimately, again, I've been talking about it for weeks now, into that 2023 year when you're looking at re-signing Tatum to the long-term mega deal. You got to make sure you're positioned to make sure that he stays and he brings his buddies here. And this is the location of the super team that they form at that time. So until then, you're not looking to blow it up and win now versus win later. You've only got these pieces. And you've got these salaries, and you either stick with what you got, risk Gordon walking and an aging Kemba, or you start to move stuff around and see if you can make it better for yourselves. You have to listen to these. You got to consider a lot of this stuff.
Holiday makes you a bit more expensive after next year for the foreseeable future. And he's not an all-in guy either. Like, I like him. He'd be a good supplement to the team. But trading in a piece as gigantic as Kemba for him and then re-signing Holiday to an extension like you would have to isn't great to me. I'm not captivated by this Hayward for Turner thing either.
Please, today. I will take that out there.
You're going to have to re-sign Holiday, who's going to be, 31, 32, into a 4-year deal. So now you've got a guy that, I mean, you would have gotten rid of Kemba sooner. So, I mean, what's it going to be, John? You say,
the same age.
An aging.
They're the same age.
Okay, you just called
aging. He's another guy who's dealt with injuries, too.
John just said aging Kemba, so say aging Holiday, too, because they're both the same age, and now you want to re-sign Holiday. And by the way, if you want to talk about blowing it up, you're not going to blow it up unless you trade Tatum or Brown, really. You're not blowing it up. But
no, because Hayward and Kemba are the core of this team as much as those other guys right now. For right now. Maybe it's only another year or two, but they're as important as those guys right now.
You overrate Hayward so much.
This is my last thing. I'm all on board on trading
I want to know what people see in Miles Turner because overrating
finish your thought.
I got one more thing. I'm all on board with trading the Pixies here, but if you guys are talking about the future on one hand, and then the next hand you're saying trade 3 picks for Jrue Holiday, well, what's it going to be? Because at some point you need to hit somebody in this draft to build around your stars. You can't just
no more draft.
What about Langford and Carson Edwards and Rob Williams? There's a lot of.
What about bring Isaiah back?
Exactly, Bobby. Exactly.